I think the most important for us is that we try to be close to our clients and close to our users to understand their pain points, to understand their feedback. And also within the company, we try not to build too huge hierarchies and just stay flat so that we can gain a bit more speed in comparison with our competitors.
Welcome to How I Grew This, where we dive into the dynamic world of digital marketing and invite leaders in the space to explore how they overcome industry challenges to achieve growth. Hello, and welcome to How I Grew This. I'm Amanda Vandiver, and I'm joined by my co-host, Adam.
Hi, everyone. How is everyone out there today?
Well, we're all good over here. And we are joined by someone who's really made waves in mobile gaming and ad tech, Günay Azer, co-founder of Gamelight, the largest rewarded mobile marketing platform. She has over a decade in the industry and 3 startups under her belt, and she has a reputation for shaking things up with AI-driven, data-focused approach that's boosting engagement for partner games in a whole new way. So thank you for being here, Günay.
It's great to be here, Amanda. Adam, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to learn from you today. And I want to kick us off with some conversation around the problems Gamelight solves through personalization. And I know Adam is super curious about your experience bootstrapping your company in the back half since he has some experience with that.
I'm looking forward to asking the questions. So I'll be on mute, jump in if I can, but I can't wait to ask questions about the company.
Awesome. So maybe to kick us off and help our listeners get an understanding of Gamelight and your experience, can you share a little bit more about your role as co-founder at Gamelight and what drew you to the space?
Sure. So I've been in this space since more than 10 years now. So it's not new for us. My partner also worked in this industry within mobile adtech and mobile apps. And we already launched a company together, and it was an app publisher developer company, and we did a lot of UA for us, right? User acquisition. And we noticed that there's a lot of shortcomings. The tools don't work well. The communication sometimes is not smooth. Often there's no dashboards to use, or if you use rewarded platforms, then the processes were not smooth. It's too much managed, like account manager, managed services, and not self-serve dashboards or analytics, so to say. And we're thinking how to make it better because this was not the way it should be, right? If there's so much data to analyze, if there's so much data to utilize, it doesn't have to be that human is sitting in front of the laptop and checking Excel sheets. It should be an algorithm that analyzes all of it because then we can maximize the results that we get. We decided to launch Gamelight, which is an AI-driven mobile marketing platform. What we do is that we analyze a lot of app usage data from users, which apps they use, how long, when, and so on, and decide what kind of recommendations we should show them. And with this, we can maximize user attention, user engagement. And after they download, we also give them different rewards for interacting with the apps, which drives partner engagement and ROAS.
Nice. Yeah, that really led into a lot of the gaps in the market that you identified. I'm curious, can you elaborate a little bit more about why is it that user acquisition is so challenging? What is it so uniquely challenging today as well?
I think relatively it's a newer industry. So mobile apps are relatively new, and mobile marketing and rewarded marketing, those are relatively newer industries. And there are a lot of players in the market now, and it's a bit difficult to choose between them. Okay, everyone knows you should work with Google and Meta, Apple Search Ads if you have an iOS app. But from the rest, it's difficult to choose from. And everyone comes up saying that they're the best, they are the network that you should work with. And as a UA network, it's difficult to understand what works, what doesn't. And after you launch, it gets even more complicated because users are behaving differently. And sometimes the growth curves that you get are not the same between organic and paid channels. So to analyze this, the user UA managers need a lot of help. And sometimes it's simply not possible as a human to analyze all of this data. And I think this was the largest challenge that we wanted to solve, the largest pain we were facing as well. That's why we tried to come up with something that would simplify the process and make it easier for UA managers.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about how there's so much data to navigate. And obviously now we know that signal loss is a huge thing that we're really struggling with and trying to make sense of. So can you talk about that balance of what is the magic between figuring out, hey, you have too much data over here, how to make sense of it, versus I don't have enough data to do anything productive or understand how my campaigns are working?
Yeah, I think the most important is that we have to understand that AI is a tool, right? To make it work, you need humans to put more data into it and to set goals and targets and make sure it's working as expected. And how it works with Gamelight in this case, for example, we do need account managers, we do need UA managers. to implement best practices, such as what kind of events do we need, what kind of goals we would set, if events are sufficient or not. Because, for example, might be that users are dropping after a certain time within the app, and you need to add more events to engage them more because you want them to come back to your app, right? Those things are not something that AI can simply do because we can't have access to those events within the game. Game publishers need to give access to those events to us and to these data points. So this is something that needs to be done by humans. They need to connect, they need to talk, they need to understand and make use of the data results that we show. But analyzing all of this can fully be pushed to AIs, because if you have sometimes millions of data points, you can't simply look at average numbers and make sense of it. It will work to a certain degree, how it worked until now, but you will not maximize it. If you can get double better results, why would you not get it, right? Then you can build algorithms that will analyze this better and bring better results. So those parts of the optimization can always be pushed to AI algorithms, and the parts where you actually need human input or strategic decisions or creative decisions, those can stay with humans.
Awesome. So, yeah, it sounds like you're talking a bit about the balance between automation and the human insights there. I'd love to unpack that a little bit more and really talk to us about how Gamelight uses AI to make that acquisition more tailored and more effective, and maybe any specific examples of how y'all help do that.
Sure. Our algorithm is built into multiple parts, so it's not one big algorithm, so to say. It's multiple of them, and one of them is recommendations algorithm. When our users download our apps to get app recommendations, they have to give us access to app usage data, which means we can see which apps they're using, how long, when. And by analyzing this data, we can come up with new recommendations for them, what could be the best fit for them. This is one part of the algorithm. This helps us optimize pre-install. So before the install happens, we already try to find the best fit for each app so that our advertisers can get the highest ROAS, highest engagement. After the install, we have a reward structure, which means users can get different rewards for engaging with the apps, for passing certain levels, or doing certain actions like, for example, doing free trial or buying something with an app and so on. For those things, we try to engage users with extra rewards, extra motivation so that they pass through those stages better. Those are happening post-install. And until Gamelight, it was also more static, so to say. So it was manually simply done, do this, do that. In our case, it's very dynamic. So algorithm analyze how users behave with their app usage time or certain events, and then it decides what would be the best reward to give them for events or for minutes of using the app. And this is also done post-install to push the quality of the users that happen afterwards, which is missing because usually if you get the user, this is it, right? That's the quality of the user. You can only impact the future ones from then on. Try to optimize, try to target different users. But if you got the user, you can only track what is happening with them. That works unless you yourself do a push notifications or engagement with the user. In case of, for example, reward marketing, we can impact users after they download the app, and we can do certain rewards for them to push them in certain directions so that, for example, the engagement is higher, the retention, and eventually the ROAS, because we can have more control over this. Also because those are directly from our apps. So we also can send up ourselves push notifications to users, try to engage them within the app. Even if they uninstall the original app that they downloaded, they are still within our apps. So we can still try to re-engage them and bring back to the app of our advertisers. We focus quite a lot on gaming, as you can see from the name too. We have a lot of ad monetized or IAP monetized games also in different regions. The one that comes to my mind now is, for example, Joy City. It's one of the largest Korean game publishers. And we did 2 case studies with them and how we managed to reach higher ROAS with them, including higher ROAS curve, and to over-deliver their quality. And there we describe a lot of technical details to what kind of events are set and how we can reach those goals. And there are also more case studies like this on our website that can be checked too.
Yeah, so obviously your experience here and with Gamelight is really focused on the gaming industry, and it's clear how that can play a role in the success of user acquisition for them. But I'm curious, you have a lot of experience in this industry overall. I'm curious what lessons you might have for any other companies outside of gaming, keeping in mind what you've shared about the importance of personalization and knowing when to re-engage in some of these elements. Any other thoughts or anything that can translate over to some of those other industries?
I think the most important is to be open for innovations. I can't stress this enough because with AI coming, or if it's any new channel, any new idea that comes up, it's better to test it, even if it's with smaller budget, to just see if it works or not. Just spend some time trying to understand the tool and use it. And then you can decide that it's not a good thing and you should not do it. but better to do this informative decision than not trying those tools, not trying new ideas, and potentially losing on something that could hugely impact the business. I think this would be hyper important, and it also would result in a lot of new ideas that other companies can implement, right? If it's personalization, maybe there are AI tools that can actually help with personalization and segmentation of users to make it smarter. So not simply a gender split or not age split, but doing it smarter based on could be app usage data, could be on usage behavior or how the user curve looks like for the progression. So there are a lot of tools that could help with this, and being open to those tools could help companies to grow their businesses.
Yeah, I want to hear from you about how you navigate the fact that these trends are rapidly evolving. Probably the techniques for any kind of machine learning or AI are evolving. So how do you stay ahead of the curve and adapt the AI to meet new challenges? And where do you see the next wave of challenges popping up?
I think the most important for us is that we try to be close to our clients and close to our users to understand their pain points, to understand their feedback, and also within the company, we try not to build too huge hierarchies and rather stay flat so that we can gain a bit more speed in comparison with our competitors. So what we try is that we always are open to feedback from partners, trying to come up with something new. I think simultaneously we run multiple A/B tests all the time, try to improve the product, both for users, partners, and bring something new that doesn't exist in the industry yet. And with those, we try to stay ahead of the competition.
Yeah, I think that's an important lesson that applies to anyone too, is A/B testing and really figuring out like, hey, let's go out there and maybe this doesn't have to be blanket rolled out to every single user, but we have this hypothesis. Let's try it out with a few and see what happens, and really not being afraid to take those risks in trying things out.
Yeah, I think being a newer company also helps, because if you have an established company with 5, 6 different leads managing one another, it becomes more and more difficult to test this, right? To test one idea, you have to go through multiple people and multiple meetings, and by then time might be some companies already did it. So trying to make the process faster and easier for the team to come up with ideas and to implement them is very important.
I'm sure there was a lot of that in the early days of Gamelight. I actually feel like this is a good transition over to your early days and some of the decisions of how you went about building your company. So Adam, I'm going to pass it over to you.
I've literally been biting my tongue because I'm so excited about asking these questions. So thank you, Amanda. You were talking about the team, early days. How long have you guys been around, and how big is the team today?
We have been around just 2 years now at Gamelight, and we are 40 people.
Wow, that's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's very small for our business size, to be honest, but we are trying to catch up now with the team because we grew quite a lot business-wise, but we didn't have team members to manage all the partners that we had. But at the same time, we tried to automate a lot of things. So anything that can be automated that we don't need people, we tried to do this first, that we can actually scale. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to scale if you have to hire continuously for each partner or for every new product update that we do.
And that gets expensive, but that's something else, is you guys are hiring then. So people listening to this podcast, take a look at the website. It might be an open role.
Yes, we are hiring for a lot of positions.
I have been waiting with bated breath to talk about the fact that you've bootstrapped the growth. And for those of you who are listening who don't know, bootstrapping means basically you funded yourself, or the company's growth funded its growth. You didn't take money from outside investors, which is fascinating. I have some experience with that myself. I know how hard it is. I know the benefits and all the downsides. I wanted to talk a little bit about that. That's pretty rare, I'd say, in the new tech world. Why did you decide to go about bootstrapping it so far?
It happened, so to say, because both my co-founder and myself come from the industry. I focus more on business sides and my co-founder on the tech topics. And we covered most of the things that we needed. We could have had investment to accelerate, to speed up the process of scaling up, but it happened because we were so engaged building the product. We thought less about getting investment because it's also less fun for us. Trying to get investment is basically doing sales for your company. And we realized that we could do it ourselves because we had the skill sets. We knew what we want to do. We just needed to plan it correctly. We can grow step by step and reach the stage when we are not limited by bootstrapping anymore.
So you basically accidentally bootstrapped it sounds like. So you were your own client because you had a publishing company. So you developed your own tools and then you started taking on third-party clients. And before you know it, you're making revenue and that was growing.
Partially. So the first company was an app publisher developer, and one of the products that we launched was actually the Playtime, which is a game recommendation platform, which eventually split under Gamelight. But it was not serving our own apps. It was still serving external third-party companies. It's simply that we started working and we were focusing so much on business that there was no time for any other topics, so to say. And because it was working, we didn't have to think of other topics. I think we were also quite lucky with this, that we could sustain our growth with our own revenues and profit.
And that's fantastic. I completely agree that if that happens, it's fantastic. A lot of people don't have that luxury. In the couple of years you've done this, what are some of the challenges you've run into bootstrapping the company? Like, what are some of the issues that maybe you didn't see or you knew were coming that you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I think the beginning was the most difficult because we couldn't simply hire a lot of people. And that was something our competitors could do, right? I think every competitor that we have, they have investments, they could get the team going, hire leads, hire team members, and have them do the work, so to say. In our case, we couldn't do this and we had to go slower because we had so many ideas. We wanted to do so many things. Physically, two people simply could not manage all of this work. So we had to slow down, take it easy, and step by step make a plan of how can we do this, how can we grow without having a huge team there, which also helped us long term because we avoided hiring a lot of people. That's something that a lot of companies do when they get investment, and after they reach certain scale, they have to let go of some people because it's too many people for the size of the business. In our case, we were very careful with hiring team. So every person was very handpicked. We knew that we want this person. And we were trying not to rush with this decision. So long term, it was a good strategy. So we had a lot of learnings from bootstrapping. Initially, it was rather difficult. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You have to be more diligent and methodical with your hiring to make sure that everyone that comes in. What about on the other end, some of the benefits that you maybe didn't see that bootstrapping gives you or allows you?
that's speed. So we noticed that in comparison also with competitors, how fast we are with decision making and implementing those decisions, because we can simply decide, me and my co-founder, we want to do this, and this is it, we will start doing that. We don't need to explain it to anyone. We don't need to ask or tell anyone how we do, and because it's so fast. And also because we have complete skill set to do all of those things, we could simply, we are doing this, and then we start doing it. And within a very short time, we had the result out there, which helped us a lot. For example, one of those was building a self-serve dashboard. That's something that doesn't exist with the reward industry, that no other company has this. And we were like, why not, right? Why other marketing channels would have self-serve dashboards, but not rewarded channels? So we decided to do this. It took us some time, but within a couple of weeks, so to say, everything was done. It was live, it was running, and we are still using it. Everything is perfect. So we keep on adding new features there, but we can decide very fast. And I think this is a huge advantage that we have in the market. We are very fast and can do a lot of things very promptly.
I could see that. You could have a morning meeting that could change the entire direction of the company. I found sometimes that would actually hurt us in the sense that the downside about not having a board or not having outside investors or not having other people that are like financially invested in your future besides the people in the company is you have trouble getting access to third parties who are like willing to dig in and help you solve a tough problem. Do you ever find while you're building a business that it's hard to get other people to invest in big decisions with you guys? It's just you guys alone?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's us alone. We don't have other people helping us or mentoring us. We also made a strategic decision that we don't do too many calls. So we try to avoid those because we realize it's rather draining and it creates false sense of achievement that you talk to other founders, you talk smart and important, and you just feel like you're doing something important. But factually, there was nothing done. So I know that we lost some things because of this. Maybe we do less networking, we have less connections and so on. But at the same time, our product evolved way faster and way better than other companies in the industry. And we are still sticking to this decision that we don't do calls. We do very few exclusions, but generally it's something that we don't do.
So if you have a question, just a Slack message, and then you get an answer and you...
Yeah, within the team, it's always chat, Slack. Teams themselves have calls. For example, if there's a lead, they do daily stand-ups or weekly kickoffs. But with us, it would be on the Slack or chats, Google Chats, email, or if it's a client, we forward them to account managers who would call them. If it's service providers, there would be someone from the team to talk. But usually we get a lot of requests to talk directly to us, potential service providers, or someone wants to exchange ideas. As much as we would want to do this, we actively decide not to do this because we know it will probably just crash back on us because we didn't have time anymore to do something that we want to do with the product.
Wow, that's fascinating. And you guys are completely remote.
Partially. So we started fully remote, but now we have an office in Hamburg, which we are growing. So we are now headquartered in Hamburg and we are hiring both in Hamburg and remotely.
Okay. And what percentage of your employees are in Hamburg?
I think right now we have probably 30% probably in Hamburg, the rest are in everywhere from China to Canada, Europe, everywhere.
And they focus or they communicate almost exclusively through chat. The people in the office are obviously talking to each other, but they're chatting otherwise. There's no calls. Do you find that's alienating the team? They're like out on their own?
The teams with themselves, they do have calls. So within the team, they would have stand-ups, like weekly calls. But me and my founder, now it's a bit easier with the team because there are leads. So leads would have calls with them. Even though we try to also have teams have less calls because they also have so many people asking, hey, we have the service, let's jump on a call. But unless you see the benefit, you shouldn't do this. It could be, again, fun and nice to talk to new expertise and so on, but factually, it will probably bring very little benefit. And initially, it was more difficult for me and my co-founder because our team was smaller and we had to not have calls. That was basically something we simply couldn't have because then we would spend our whole time during the day just calling with the team because it was already large enough and business was large enough. And then there were partners that want to have calls. So then it was more difficult. And I can imagine how it's more difficult for the team too if there are less calls, especially if they work remotely. But I think right now in the team, it's easier because there are team members, teams are larger, there are leads, so they have regular calls with each other.
And with clients, how do you keep from having calls with clients? Because I imagine the UA managers or your clients are constantly wanting to talk to them and get advice and talk through their issues. And how do you manage that?
We have a very strong account management team, something we were lacking before. It was still managed by us because there's also a bit less need for account managers with our product because of the algorithm. So it's very self-optimizing. Less input is needed from AEMs or UA managers to optimize campaigns. But there is still need, right? They still need to talk, set up things, and make sure we reach the goals. And we have now a very strong account management team who manage all of this. So there is no need for us to be involved anymore.
What's your primary acquisition channel for getting clients?
Initially, it was BD team and my personal connections, so to say, because I'm from the industry already since 10 years. So I knew UA managers, I knew CMOs, and also we had a BD team. Now it's a lot of inbounds and BD team too. So BD team is actively trying to get partners on board, but we also get featured a lot in different indexes, such as Cyber Performance Index or different awards and so on. So we get a lot of inbounds because, either we're featured there and they see that it's a good source, or our advertisers recommend from one to another because they test us, they see quality is good, then they would tell their friends, other user acquisition managers to try us out.
And for the future entrepreneurs who are listening, if you're looking at starting a bootstrap company again, do you think that there's a certain product or service that kind of lends itself well for bootstrapping better than, I don't know, SaaS is hard and agency is easier? Like, is there a certain type of business you think lends itself very well for bootstrapping growth?
Yeah, I think the one main rule would be that the business should be performance driven in low scale. So without hoping that would grow and would be big and then would be profitable, but can you be profitable with 100 users? If answer is yes, you can probably bootstrap. If you can't, you can probably not do this because you will run out of money very fast and you will probably not scale. So can you be profitable in a low scale? If answer is yes, you can probably bootstrap.
Okay, let's continue on that because I really like this. So if you were to give someone advice, like let's say, hey, Günay, I'm Adam, I'm starting a bootstrap company. What advice would you give me? What would you tell someone? Like the components they'd need to line up. You need to be profitable with about 100 users. What about co-founder? How do you go find a co-founder? How do you find a product? How do you find customers? How do you find product market fit? Those sorts of things.
I think finding a right co-founder is probably one of the most important things to do. I didn't think it was that important initially before I had a co-founder. And then I realized how much speed we can gain with co-founder. And what kind of co-founder you need is that if you need certain skill set for the whole company to run, it can be finance, marketing, it can be tech or HR, anything you can think of that you would need for your product to build and run and be in the market, you and your co-founder should cover it. that you don't need anyone else. Otherwise, we need to hire, and probably as a bootstrap company, you can't hire anyone in the beginning because you simply can't do it. You should try to build your own skills. For example, I didn't have any design skills before I launched Catbite, the company before Gamelight. And I had to start to learn how to do graphic design, how to edit videos and so on to developers, creatives, and also find a co-founder who can complement your skills. In my case, was my tech co-founder who knew backend and frontend. He knew how to build the products, how to analyze them. So it was like tech and product, BI all in one. And together we could then launch this. So finding the right co-founder is the most important thing to do when you want to bootstrap, because I don't think one person can even cover all the skills that you need. You always be strong in tech, lack on business side. Once this is done, obviously the business idea should be there that you are performance driven and you can be profitable. And third most important thing I would say is being data driven, because I've seen so many people launch companies and then they have some vision in front of them and they have the idea that they want to launch, but they try to make it perfect. They spend half a year trying to make it better and optimize it. And before they even launch, they're just making their app better and better, not necessarily better, right? Better for their vision. So maybe it's actually going the completely wrong direction. What you should do is launch an MVP as soon as possible. If it's an app that can work somehow, that's a good enough MVP.
Perfection is the enemy of progress, as they say.
Exactly. So launching as soon as possible, get the first data in, analyze, and do the next feature, and then the next, and build your product based on the data, which is probably going to go against your vision. So you should be actually open-minded to accept that you were wrong about your product that you wanted to launch, because chances are very low that specifically exactly what you thought is exactly what is going to work in the market. It's probably not going to happen. So launch it as soon as possible, first MVP out, and then start optimizing based on the data you gather from the users.
One thing that I'm really curious about in that, it seems like through your experience in the industry and the gap that you identified in the market, that you were really passionate about this problem. I'm curious how that played into your co-founder as well. Did y'all share in this vision, or was there any give and take, or did the approach evolve, or did your understanding of the market problem evolve too?
I think both me and my co-founder are very hardworking, so to say. So we get excited about the idea of working and making something better, which I think helped a lot to both of us. And since both of us come from the industry and we know how gaming works, how mobile marketing works, it was a bit easier for us to also get things going because we didn't have to learn the whole industry, right? We knew what are the app publishers, what are the big players, how monetization works, how user acquisition works. So starting was relatively easier for us to start building the product and also pushing it into the market. And our understanding definitely improved a lot over the years. I think we now know so much about the industry because we built the product ourselves, right? And we did those A/B tests that I mentioned, and we can bring them so we understand how users behave, why users behave a certain way, and what we can do and what we shouldn't do. And I think it also brings us a lot of advantage over potentially competitors, because usually founders of companies, once they grow, they stop dealing with day-to-day topics and they go more like organizational and management and building the relationship and strategy, which is good on by itself, something I think we should learn from ourselves. But on the other hand, often they lack hands-on experience. They don't know anymore how details of product work, what exactly happens with users and what can be improved. Those are then push to product teams, which doesn't necessarily mean that it would be good, because then those people are lacking. For example, if you're on product, you might lack some business idea. If you're in business, you might lack some tech idea, how difficult it is to do and so on. So being this people in between and connecting all of those is very important.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I'm curious, just to lead us out, obviously you're hyper-focused on the mobile rewards element of user acquisition, but from your seat, with all of your experience, through everything that you've learned and going about building and bootstrapping this company, how do you envision user acquisition evolving looking ahead?
I think it's definitely going to be more AI driven and happening. More and more companies are trying to launch more AI solutions, which is going to happen even more. What also is going to happen is more performance driven approach. I think we've already seen this in the last couple of years, that ROAS cycles are getting shorter and shorter. If before sometimes companies would aim to be profitable within 2 to 3 years, then it became 1 to 2 years, 1 year, 6 months. So companies are trying to make most of their budgets and trying to build their products and also relationship with their UA sources that they get their money back in a shorter time and they are more performance driven, which I think is very healthy for the market, instead of basically wasting budgets and hoping that within 3 years you get the returns. You are making more decisions that are more numbers driven and better for your business.
Yeah, so many correlations between your approach to building your company and anyone out there's approach to acquiring users and being performance focused and all of that. So really love the connection there and appreciate you coming on and sharing your story and for all the great work that y'all are doing out there at Gamelight. And thank you, Adam, as well.
Thank you, Günay. It was a pleasure and many good questions.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, please leave a review wherever you listen to this and share with someone trying to grow their career. Until next time, keep growing.